We live in a time when everyone is connected. Instant messages, social media, people talking to each other at every hour of the day. And yet, more and more studies are warning us about something troubling. More and more people say they feel completely alone, disconnected, isolated. But here's the strange part. While some people feel like no one is there for them, others have made a very different choice. They've started pulling away from certain people. They looked at their phone, saw a name on the screen, and decided something very simple. Not today. Not today, and maybe never again. And here's what's odd. They don't feel lonely. They don't feel broken. In fact, a lot of them say they've never felt this calm. So a question comes up. At what moment does that shift happen? When someone becomes the person who walks away and doesn't look back. Because here's the strange thing. Most of the time, they weren't always like this. There was a time when you were the person everyone trusted. The friend who answered at any hour. The one who listened for hours. The one who tried to keep the peace when everyone else was arguing. You were the person they called when something went wrong, and you almost always picked up. You listened to the same problems. You gave the same advice. You watched how, so many times, nothing changed. And still, you showed up again the next time. Over and over. Until one day, something small happened. Something almost invisible. The phone rang. You looked at who was calling. And for the first time, you decided not to answer. And something unexpected happened. The world didn't fall apart. In fact, the opposite happened. Everything got a little quieter. And that moment wasn't weakness. Your brain was doing exactly what it's built to do. Protect you. The researcher Stephen Porges explains that our nervous system runs in different modes. One of them is built for social connection. It's the mode we use when we feel safe around other people. But there's another mode, one that shows up when the system senses too much wear, too much emotional stress, too much energy given away for too long. When that happens, your nervous system changes strategy. It pulls back. It withdraws. It conserves energy. Not because something is wrong with you, but because your body has decided it needs to protect its resources. And emotional energy is one of the most limited resources we have. But here's another important question. Where did your nervous system learn that some relationships could be a threat to your well-being? For a lot of people, the answer starts long before adulthood. It starts in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a place where you learned to read the room constantly. You watched the moods of the adults. You noticed when something was about to shift. You knew when it was better to stay quiet, when it was better to disappear. The psychiatrist Bowen described something similar with an idea called emotional cutoff. It's a pattern that shows up when someone learns that emotional closeness can come with tension or with unpredictability. So the brain builds an adaptation. Keep a certain distance. Don't depend too much. Don't expose too much. What began as a way to protect you when you were small can turn into a pattern that follows you for years. But this is where the story gets more complicated. Because not all distance is the same. There's a real difference between protecting yourself and building walls that shut everyone out. Research on health shows that long-term isolation can take a toll on your physical well-being. But here's something that often gets left out. Being surrounded by the wrong people can be just as harmful. So the real question isn't whether you should let people into your life. The real question is, who deserves to be there? There's something interesting about people who end up pulling away from certain bonds. They rarely do it at random. Over time, they get very good at spotting patterns. That friend who only shows up when they need something. That family member who mixes affection with criticism. That person who arrives with intensity and then vanishes. Your mind starts to recognize the cycles, the promises that repeat. the behavior that repeats. And once you've seen the same pattern enough times, you start to trust what you're seeing. Some recent research has found something interesting. People who lived through more emotional stress early in life often develop a sharper sensitivity to social signals. The brain becomes especially tuned to small shifts in how others behave. It's not paranoia, it's accumulated experience. Your mind has spent years watching, comparing, learning, until it built something like an alarm system. So when that system senses a relationship is about to drain you, a lot of people learn to listen to that signal. Society likes to use words like antisocial or withdrawn to describe people who pull away. But those words assume something, that we should always want more connection, more people, more interaction. But there's another experience entirely, the calm of chosen solitude. It's not the loneliness that hurts. It's the quiet of a space where your mind can finally rest. The phone rings less. There are fewer pointless conflicts, less emotional noise. And in that silence, a lot of people discover something they didn't expect. Peace. People who don't understand this tend to think you're running away. But often, it's the opposite. You're not running away. You're moving closer. Closer to a quieter life. To more honest relationships. To a version of yourself that isn't constantly exhausted. And if you've ever wondered whether something is wrong with you for pulling away from certain people, listen closely. You're not cold. You're not incapable of love. You're not someone without feelings. You're someone who learned something important. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. And choosing to protect your peace might be one of the quietest, bravest decisions a person can ever make. There's a famous study Harvard has been running for more than 70 years on human happiness, and one of its conclusions is surprisingly simple. It's not the number of people in your life that matters most. It's the quality of those relationships. So if your circle is small, but it's made up of people who truly respect you, people who are actually there when it counts, then you're not doing it wrong. You're probably doing it exactly